All right, so one of the just awesome things about our new wire harness system that has all the plug and play connectors and are all backwards compatible and interconnectable and so on is that we also include the single weather pack connectors here that you can put on your switch wires. And that allows you to just plug into any of our plug and play harnesses, which are all universal, and they can plug in and adapt to any light model and so on. But since Ford put the pass-through wires in several locations, those actually might be usable in this new Bronco where they hadn't been in previous vehicles like the Raptor for the most part, because most of the time people aren't just going to the floorboard, since they have those routed to other locations. So with these additional female connectors, you can put those on those pass-through wires. So unlike what Ford tells you to do, is if you want to make a connection to that wire back in the back and so on, use a permanent butt connector to put those together. You don't have to do that. When you put these connectors on your switch wires and you put these connectors on your pass-through wires, if you want to connect any switch to a specific pass-through wire, you can just plug it in, just like our other custom harnesses. And if you decided to move those, split those and so on, you can simply unplug it, plug in our splitters, adapters, and so on. So that makes your truck prepped and ready for any harness system or any light component that you add on that we provide with our new plug and play harness system. Now, to go a little step further, if you have one of these label makers, and if you don't, you can pick them up really cheap. They're 20, 30 bucks. You can print off some labels and numbers for your different switch wires, so it's easy to access those without looking at the owner's manual to see which color is which wire. So we're going to go ahead and cut those out and put those on our switch wires so it's easy to tell which wire is which. So before installing any lights into our Bronco, we need to first find our switch wires. And here on, you can see the driver's side. Here's the battery. Here on this back firewall here, you should be able to see those switch wires right here. There's some additional wires right down here that allow us to tap in where the wires are run in different locations in the truck, such as the windshield in the rear, and then up in the front grille here, and in the passenger side floorboard. You'll notice there's some electrical tape right here that are holding our wires in place. We can simply pull up on that electrical tape. You can just pull those wires right through that electrical tape like this, and they'll pull out. And then you'll have access to them here just like this. And then we can go ahead and get access to the manual in the center screen to tell which color switch wire is which switch. All right, so now that we have this screen open, we can move up and down, we can change pages and so on, and we'll be able to get all the information that we need as far as which color is which switch and the additional colors for wires that are run in other locations, so we have access to tap into those so we don't have to necessarily run so much wire depending on what it is you're hooking up. All right, so now you're going to notice that on the Bronco here, your Aux 1 has a 30 amp max and your Aux 2 a 15, and now the remaining 4 are all 10 amps. If you've ever had one of the other F-150 Raptors or the Super Duties that had the Aux switches as well, you had been limited to 2 15s, 2 10s, and then the other 2 only 5 amps. So this is a bit of an upgrade as far as the amp rating here, something I'm sure the other Raptor owners wish Ford would do for them as well. All right, so now as we scroll that page up a little bit, we can see here on this bottom section that we have our colors now for our pass-through wires for the different locations. As you see, B1 passenger compartment, B2 passenger compartment, C is the front grille, D right-hand visor, and E right-hand quarter panel. So that's going to be down on the floorboard if you have anything down there. The right-hand visor is going to be right up here where our latch is here. We'll be able to remove this. There's a panel right here. That wire is going to be underneath of that, and that's where we're going to have access to that wire in case we wanted to put a roof light or anything like that on there. Then we've got our other locations here. In the rear again, front grille, passenger compartment down here, we've got 2 of them. And so now you can see we've gone ahead and put our little labels on our auxiliary wires. These are our powered ones. So we know which one's which real easily without having to reference back to that manual. And down here we have our pass-through wires. And so we're gonna go ahead and label those as well. And once we do that, we'll be able to plug them into each other if we wanted to access different areas, again with that weatherproof, weather-tight seal. And then again, our other switch wires here will be prepped and ready for any of our other SPV plug-and-play harnesses. So whether we need to access another location and then use one of our SPV harnesses or plug directly into these powered wires here, we're gonna have plug-and-play, weatherproof connections in all the locations, and it's just a matter of just rearranging them the way you want them. It becomes the most simplified plug-and-play system you can have once you've got these wires here prepped. And so now we have those labeled as well, and so we can go ahead and put our connectors on. And then it's going to be a lot easier to tell what is what as far as making your connections between the two and so on. So I think it's going to make things a lot more simplified. So again, if you have access to a labeler, that's something you can do if you want to label those wires. All right, so when we want to put our connectors here on our switch wires, it's really easy to do so. I don't like to cut all of that end cap off because it wastes a little bit of wire. I usually keep a little bit there and just strip that off with it. So, you know, in this case, and sometimes you can fold over the wire a little bit too, so you might even want a little bit more, just get you more grip. So I cut off some of that, left some, and now I can strip it from behind here, just like so. And I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way as much as I can of the camera so you can see this. Pull down on it, and I can slide this wire off. Again, this is an odd angle because I'm trying to keep out of the camera as much as possible, but you should be able to get an idea here. It'll actually go easier if you're not trying to stay out of the camera. Just like so, then you can see there's our wire. Now, in this case, I am going to go ahead and twist this together. I'm going to slide our rubber seal here over top of our wire down to where the insulation starts, and then I'm going to fold this over because I'm using a pretty heavy-duty connector here with some big wings, so that'll clear that. Now, depending on which connector you get, most of the time these are the same, but there can be some different gauge wings on different connectors. Then you know, you may or may not fold that over if you can't get the wings all the way over. In this case, we can, so I folded it over. These crimpers here, I like these. You can get these on Amazon. They're about 35 bucks. What I like about these is they're a one squeeze crimp. You can get the other weather pack style crimpers. If you don't have some, you can just, again, go to Amazon, weather pack crimpers or weather pack crimp tools, and you can get those. But again, this is nice because it's one squeeze. We can put that in here just like this. That's what you get. Anyway, that should be good enough anyway. Normally it's gonna be a little cleaner just if you're not worried about trying to stay out of the way. But the main thing is we've got the wire crimped over. It's important that you make sure that when you crimp over the wire, these wings right here in the middle, those need to go over the wire, not the insulation. You don't push the wire up into the tube. You want to crimp over the wire right here. Now this is a little bit long, so it's sticking out the end just a little bit. Again, not a big deal. It's going to be hidden in that connector, but you don't want to make, you want to make sure that you're crimping these center wings over the wire. This part of the wings on the connector go over the rubber seal. That's fine. That doesn't need to touch the wire, but as you can see bare wire through the bottom there. So this whole thing is making contact with the wire. If you don't make good contact with the wire with this pin and you slid the wire up into that terminal, which I've seen people do, then you're not going to get, you might get intermittent power. You might not, your light might not work at all. And you're going to be wondering, why isn't this working? Is there something defective? It's just because you crimped it wrong. So make sure, again, these wings right here in the middle, they have to crimp over the wire. They grab that, hold that in place, and so on. You don't want to use just regular crimpers either, because these wings, you see these wings right here? Those crimp over the wire and they fold down, sort of like a staple does. You know, if you put a staple through paper, you know how it curls at the end and it comes back in on the paper? That's what these do. If you use just a regular set of pliers and you crimp over top of those, you're just pushing it flat. It's not going to grab that wire and hold it in place. So that's why it's important that you use the right style crimpers. They're not expensive. Again, you can get a set of the generic, just, you know, regular plier type crimpers like this on Amazon for about 16, 17 bucks. You can get that style that's a one squeeze crimp all for all three of these locations here for about 35 bucks, if that's what you want to do. But the results are going to definitely be worth it if you do it with the right tools. So now when we slide our connector over top and we squeeze it down here and close it, now we've got a weatherproof seal, and we can go ahead and put the rest of our connectors here on in the engine bay, and then we can go to the inside and put those on as well, and we should be all set. All right, so now we've slid our other connectors over top of our pass-through wires, and remember that these all black connectors get the pointed pins, where the connectors with the green seal here get the tubular pins. Always follow your directions and make sure that you don't mix those pins up, because otherwise the two won't match up. But now you should be able to see here when we take one of our powered switch wires, and let's say that we want to connect it to the front grille. The front grille here is the purple wire, and again, I've labeled that. I can just plug these two connections together just like this. I'm not going to actually do it right now, but you can see how they work. I can actually plug these two connections together just like this, and now our switch wire is going to be connected to our grille wire location just like that. And if we ever decided we wanted to disconnect it from that and use that switch for another connection, we can. Or let's say that, you know, here is our Aux 2, and our Aux 2 was the one we were using on our grill light first, but later on we decided, you know what, we want to move that to Aux 1. We can simply unplug that and then plug Aux 1 into that connection, just like so. So by doing this prep with these connectors in here, instead of using a permanent butt connector, not only do you have the ability to move these around like our other plug-and-play harnesses, but you also can rest assured that you've got a weatherproof seal with these connections. But again, the big benefit is going to be that you're going to be able to connect these and move these around so that you don't have, you know, once these are on here, it's all plug and play again from there on out. Once you do this prep work on your truck with these connectors, you won't have to do any kind of wiring again. You just plug in our plug and play harnesses from our harness system in various ways to accomplish what you want, whether it be splitters, connectors, adapters, and so on and so forth. Fog lights, we've got our fog harnesses that plug into these. We're going to show you that here soon. A-pillar lights, rear lights, and so on. But you can just rearrange these again in various ways and accomplish virtually anything. So now we're going to go ahead and move on into the inside, into the floorboard, and we're going to go ahead and prep those 3 wires in there. All right, so now let's take a look here real quick at locating the auxiliary wire pass-throughs here in the passenger side floorboard. So here's an outside view. You can see this is the side. Here are the kick panel, your speakers down here. This is the glove box, okay? You don't actually have to take the glove box out or down or anything else. You can actually see the wires here. One of them is a little more difficult to get to than the other. So I'll do my best to show you. You see these two here. These are the 2 pass-throughs from the actual firewall area. So these are going to be live if you plug them in to the other auxiliary wires. Now the other two locations that go to, trying to keep the camera steady here, the other two locations that go to the roof and the one that goes back to the back quarter panel are also under here. So the one that goes to the roof, you're going to notice it right here, that orange and gray. And they've kind of got it just poked in this harness here. You see the little loop? So that's where that is. All right. So you can pull that loose. You can put your connectors on these as well. And then the other one is really hard to see. So I've got to really do some twisting in here to be able to hold the camera and show you. But I want you to take a look right here. You see that orange cable? The thick orange cable? Okay, and get back. See their speaker, right back here by the speaker. That thick orange cable. All right. Right there is the wire, right between the blue, right between that blue cable and the orange cable. Do you see it right there? They've got it hidden in there really good. But if we look right here, I can see the end coming right out there by this blue cable. So if we pull that loose, we'll be able to get the connectors on those as well. Now, so we keep this all uniform, we're going to want to put our male connectors, the ones with the green rubber seal, on these pass-through wires that come from the engine bay. So it goes male, female as you go back, and so on. Now, if you mess up in here, it's not as big of a deal, as long as you put the same type connector on these two wires and a different type connector on the other wires that go to the quarter panel and up to the roof. But, you know, for quality's sake, I do like to keep them uniform. So let's put the male connectors with the green rubber seals on here. And then these other ones, this one goes to the roof, the other one back in here goes to the back quarter panel. We're going to put the all black single female connectors on there. Okay, so now we've got this all done. We've got our connectors on all of our wires. As you can see, some are easier to get to than others. The roof wire is easy to get to. I can pull it out here and get to it without really crouching over and killing my back. But some of these, to get in there and crimp and strip those wires, you've really got to get under there. Lay on the floor. You got to, if you're good at the game of Twister, this might be a qualifier for you. So, but anyway, it's not terrible. But you do have to, you know, get in some odd positions. But anyway, so now that we've got that done, following that same guideline that we talked about before, putting our male connectors on there with their green plugs, those are the ones coming from the firewall. This is the female then on our roof connector and our rear connector wire. And so now I've labeled those as well. So we know which is which. And the reason that that's important, again, floor 1, floor 2, is because those are going to correspond with, if you did label the ones in the engine bay, you'll know which one you're connecting. So if you connected floor 2 to aux 1, then you'd know that's the one you want to connect to your roof. You just plug that in. So again, by using this prep kit and installing that into your Bronco, it's just a matter of plugging in different connections, and you can move those around as well as you go. All right, here's our front grille. And here on the front grille, you'll see this bundle of wire here that runs from the battery right there. Here is your access wire for the wire that goes to the grille. So we can put a connector on here as well, and then it's ready if we do want to connect anything to that directly. But again, a lot of your harnesses are still going to have access right there to the firewall in most of those cases. But again, when you've got these things prepped up like this, then it's just a matter of plugging them in and arranging them in different ways to accomplish what you want without cutting or splicing any wires. Pry this little cap off of here where the visor is, here by this headliner, and you'll see that'll just slide around here. and you can pry that off very carefully with a trim removal tool. Be careful, especially if you use metal ones, because you can mark up the plastic if you're not careful. We didn't, but you can, so you got to be careful. And then you're going to notice there's a bolt right here, so you're going to remove that, and then you'll notice we've got a power cord here for our visor, so we're going to want to release that connector here so we can disconnect it and lay it aside. So you'll just squeeze that clip and that will release. Now you can lay your visor aside and we can continue on to remove the rest of this panel to access that wire. All right, so this is pretty easy to pull down. Just some little clips that hold it in place. You can see that there. You're not going to hurt anything. There's some flexibility there with that plastic. And if I pull this down, you're going to see that wire right here. It's kind of tucked in there behind. And now what we need to do is we need to get that up into this area where we're going to be able to connect that. You can also pull on this side. Again, it's just held with clips too, so you can pull that down to get some more access behind here as well. I don't know that you necessarily want to pull the whole thing down because it goes the whole length here all the way around this and so on. So, but you can if it's really in your way, but I think you can probably work around it for the most part. All right, so for the rear wire access for that last aux wire pass through, it's going to come out right about here by the speaker behind this quarter panel cover. Now this cover is not easy to take off at all, so unless this is something you really want to have access to for things like built-in coolers and stuff, you may not want to mess with it. If you do, it's just going to take a lot of work. You're going to have to take off the trim panel here in the door jamb. You're going to have to take off this entire panel. There are a lot of push pins and clips, and there's several bolts and things like that back here as well. Just not easy to get to. I don't know why they made it so difficult. They could have brought it out up to the top here so you'd have access there. Unfortunately, they did not. So again, it's there if you need it, but it's probably not one of those things that most people are going to mess with. All right, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Again, subscribe to our channel. We've got several installation videos. When we get new products in, you'll get alerted that there's a new video with a new product, so you can check out new videos with things like this for your vehicle. But again, visit SPVParts.com for this and many other parts for your Ford Bronco and off-road vehicles.